It's been 8 years since the Syrian president promised economic reforms and opening up the country to foreign investment. What impact have the reforms had, and have they created more opportunities for young Syrians? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Hashim Al-Barra and welcome to this special edition of Inside Story from Damascus, Syria. Economic reforms have been a large part in Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's presidency since he came to power in 2000. He promised change and millions were hopeful they would see new job opportunities. But like much of the Arab world, unemployment here is over 10%, and in Syria, young people make up a large number of those without jobs.
It's something large numbers of young Syrians face, worrying about how to find a job. A university education helps, but even graduates face problems. They often find they don't have the skills employers need, and some of them turn to extra training programs in order to boost their chances of finding work. Here at the Syrian Enterprise and Business Center, a program called Skills offers targeted job training to those looking for employment. It is run by an NGO and is one of the few schemes providing Syrian students with English courses, computer classes, and an internship they hope will eventually lead to a job.
The idea came to fill the gap between the output of the educational system and the real market needs. But what we give to the students is the practical information and the practical skills which they really need to be skilled in the job they find.
Some students are even getting a head start enrolling in this program while they are still in school.
At university, they don't go into detail. And here it's not like I'm just studying. They give us real examples, like things that are really going on here in Syria. And they don't leave anything that's big or small. We go into everything. And they show you how to apply everything.
But there are hundreds of thousands of unemployed youth in the country, and this program teaches less than 30 of those. Approximately 12% of working-age Syrians are unemployed, and some figures show the majority of those are under 25. The government acknowledges the problems young Syrians face while looking for jobs.
We still have very high percentage of youth unemployment. First-time job seekers still face difficulties in finding jobs. Youth unemployment in Syria reaches 18% of the workforce.
But thousands of Syrians still struggle to look for jobs and hope economic reforms can help bring about promised change and more opportunities.
Joining us to discuss economic reforms in Syria, our guest, Mr. Nabil Sukkar, an economist, and Mr. Jihad al-Yazji, editor of the Syria Report. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start by asking Mr. Nabil Sukkar, 8 years after the start of economic reforms in Syria, what do you make of its outcome? Was it positive so far?
Yes, certainly it's positive, but it should be, we should be seeing more positive results in the long run. But so far, we see more private sector activity. We see active banking sector in place. We see the private sector getting involved into education, basic education as well as university education. We see more liberalization of trade. We see unification of exchange rates. So the economy is actually picking up, and growth has accelerated in the past 3 years. But the fruits of reform normally take a long time to
Exactly,
take place.
this is what I noticed here when I've been filming in Syria. It came amid huge expectations among the Syrians. Let me go to Mr. Jihad al-Yazji. But it seems that the results haven't met so far the huge expectations of millions of Syrians.
Yes, it is true. Actually, people were expecting, when hearing about the growth, when hearing about the major reforms that have taken place, as Dr. Sukkar has just said, they were basically expecting higher purchasing power, more job opportunities. But obviously these things take time. And there has been a difference, there is a difference today between what people are expecting and what they're seeing on the ground. I think it's a question of deepening of the reform on the one side. They haven't been deepened enough. And a question of time. I mean, you can't get out of a socialist economy only in 2 or 3 years.
Oh, exactly. So let's now go into details about the whole story of economic reforms. Is it easy to move from 4 to 5 decades of social economy market into a free market with no clash between two different mindsets?
No, it's not easy. And countries that went through that transitional process took them some time, and it was a difficult process. And it will be difficult here. But the benefit that we have is that there are others who started ahead of us, and so we could learn from their experience. In any reform, you have to change the mindset, and you have to fight vested interests. And you have to introduce a lot of education to the people in educating them about the benefits of a market economy and efficiency that a market economy brings to their well-being and to growth, and at the same time assuring them that the market economy could be associated with measures of social justice to protect the poor and to assure that inequality does not result, is not the consequences of liberalization and so it's going to be a difficult process, but I think it's doable.
Okay, Mr. Jihad, do you think this is something that has to take many years before seeing an efficient private sector operating here in Syria?
Well, actually, the private sector is getting more and more efficient. It is learning to adapt world markets. With the introduction and arrival of banks and insurance companies, they're also learning or acquiring a culture of dealing with the financial sector. People here are traditionally traders. So the issue is not here about private sector, if you want, getting more experience. It's about private sector getting more space to maneuver, more space to operate.
So to do that, do you mean that the public sector has to back away, or what?
But it has already partially backed away. That is certainly...
But its presence is extremely important and still hugely felt here among the Syrians.
Yes, but although it depends on which sector you're talking about. If you talk of the manufacturing sector, few people know that the private sector produces around 80% of the manufacturing sector GDP. Now, it is obvious, it is very present. It is obvious it's something that is left from these decades of socialist and controlled economy. And it's not easy to remove it, but it will need to be scaled down gradually.
Mr. Nabil, this is a country with huge potential. I mean, natural resources, agriculture, and oil, although there are some reports that's now depleting because of because Syria doesn't have huge reserves of oil. Is this potential enough to make Syria in the future one of the biggest, most important economies in the Middle East?
Yes, I think we have all the resources necessary and the potential. But between our domestic resources and our resources abroad, in the sense of Syrians abroad with their skills, entrepreneurship and funds, I think we can manage. The problem is that in the past we got used to the leading of a public sector taking a leading role, and people were dependent on the public sector, and now they have to be educated and feel that they have to rely on themselves. The private sector has to take the lead. The people have to take part in this process, and you have to change the mindset. And the difficulty is that we are going through that process now, depending on our own resources. In the past, we relied on oil revenues at one time. We relied on foreign aid in the 70s.
And now you are shifting towards
new services. And now we have to rely on our own resources, financial as well as human.
Okay, the idea behind free market is that you will see this new policy generating cash for the country. We don't see that. Why, Mr. Jihad?
Well, as I said earlier, you need time. Then the country is facing significant problems. One of them is a widening subsidies bill, which is costing the government hundreds of billions of.
But the government has said recently, in fact, it has already started a subsidy crunch. So I think now it's no more a pretext, anyway.
Well, it has started, but it hasn't really entered into the significant reform, which will be the reduction on subsidies of
which means that the government will get every year save $7 billion US a year and get it towards social welfare programs?
Well, hopefully, if they lift entirely the subsidies, which will not be the case, but it is true that the budget deficit of the government is extremely important. This year it is rising to 10% of GDP, which is a significant, which is a doubling almost of last year's figure, and this is something worrying on the long term. So the government has no other option than to reduce subsidies or to find other sources of income.
Okay, so if talking about benefits of economic reforms, why telecommunications, internet, technology, and other sectors here in Syria are lagging far behind compared to neighboring countries?
But I don't think they are lagging that much far behind. I think we are picking up quite rapidly, and I think we are doing quite well in this regard. But I think it's all these other sectors that need to be picked up. We have stagnation in our other economic sectors. We have stagnation in the manufacturing sector and agricultural sector. There is a lot of capacity building that need to take place, improving our education system, improving our institution, introducing civil service reform. So there is a large list of reforms that we have to carry out in order to be able to catch up and make our economy more competitive. And globalization is really creating tremendous pressure, and we have to live up to that challenge.
Very briefly, to do economic reforms, you need also to have new political laws implemented. Is Syria halfway through this, or is it still?
No, it doesn't seem that it's really moving towards that direction. It is true, as you said, that in particular a reform of the judiciary system would be very much welcome to provide some guarantees, better guarantees, if you want, for foreign investor. It would be, I think, a significant step towards a significant increase and improvement in attracting foreign investment in the country.
Gentlemen, stay with us. When we come back, we will see whether the economic reforms have an impact on the job market. Stay with us.